I'm Twyla.
And I'm Natalie.
And this is Twyla and Natalie.
We're going to chat with you all about the joys and the pitfalls of being a grown woman.
Indeed. Every single week we come armed with a question, something that probably has to do with our lives and the things that we're going through. And we try to talk about it. And hopefully we come to some sort of understanding for ourselves and for you as well.
Share our enlightenment.
I like that you think we're enlightened most of these times. I don't usually think we get that far most of the time.
No, we don't.
I think we try, but we don't always get there. So this week's question is, I think, one that I think a lot of people are probably thinking about, particularly getting closer to holidays and things like that. Is everyone lonely?
This is an interesting question. It's been popping up in different areas. I've been seeing articles and little news snippets about it, about this, what's even being referred to as an epidemic of loneliness.
Yeah.
And I've put some thought into it. It's not something that I'm not experiencing, and this might sound horrible when when you first asked me the question, my first thought is like, I would kill to be lonely, I would pay money.
Right. Right. Where you're like, just not me. I'm good.
But it's a different, I don't really think that's the question. For me, being more of, at heart, an introvert, I get my energy from being alone.
Yes.
Or if it's just Tony and I, that's the equivalent too of I'm energized that way, just the two of us,
okay,
or me by myself. So for me, that alone time is recharging. I think based on what I've been seeing and hearing is, there's that loneliness is more a lack of connecting, a lack of feeling connected to another human being.
Okay. I guess
that's how I define loneliness.
Yeah, I can see that. I had to, in my head, I had to go over the idea of what's loneliness versus being alone. Because I think there's a real distinction there.
Huge difference. Oh my gosh, I was in a marriage and I was incredibly lonely.
Yeah. I think my perspective is highly informed by the way that I grew up. I grew up in a big family with a lot of extended people, but we were also really nomadic when I was young. Like, we did a lot of moving around. Sometimes we moved state to state. Sometimes we moved around within a state. So I didn't really ever have a chance to sort of put down what I would consider like little kid roots, like the idea of having a school that you go to,
sure,
or having, like having your friends that you grew up with, like I didn't have my first real like long-term friend till I was 12. And so I think when looking back on it, I spent a lot of time feeling lonely. I was a lonely kid, even though I had siblings, even though I had parents that were in the house. I felt like I spent a lot of time being a lonely kid, because some of the things that are benchmarks to give a kid that sense of self and sense of safety, I didn't have when I needed them. As an adult, I think I turned that thought process into making sure I was actively comfortable being alone. And I think I even put myself in situations to be alone, to learn how to deal with it. When I went to college, I moved completely away from my family. I knew no one when I came here to live.
Wow.
As an 18-year-old. I didn't know a soul. And I from the minute my feet hit the ground in Minnesota, it was, I am on my own now, and I'm going to have to figure it out. And I did. I made my own family. I made my own community. I made my own way, doing that.
You connected with people.
Yeah, but that was very much me teaching myself how to do that. And even within that, I still was very much sort of a surface level person for a long time, where I would interact with you for class and I would interact with you during the day. But when the evening came or when the weekend came, I was on my own. I would see y'all Monday.
Yeah,
I'm going to go be on my own.
Are you saying that was by choice? Like, you wanted to be on your own?
Yeah, I think I spent so much time being lonely that I forced myself to learn how to be okay to be alone. And then grew to find out that I like certain parts of being alone. Like, I like the idea of being able to recharge my own batteries or to spend time. I'm never uncomfortable spending time with myself without other people. I know some people that just don't like being by themselves very much. They like the social being with other people.
And I think those are more people who, that would be described as an extroverted personality, and that they get their energy from being around other people.
Right. And
I like to be around other people, but I find it exhausting and draining when I'm done. When I'm doing it, when I'm in that moment, I'm enjoying myself. I'm always like dreading going to a party, because I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to be around a bunch of people. But when I'm there and engaging, I enjoy myself. But I'm physically exhausted when it's over. And I've had times where I want to be in my bathroom because there's no windows. It's an enclosed room.
Oh, see, now I don't mind. I guess I don't have a specific problem with that. I don't dread going to, you know, events or things like that. I like when I get there, you know me, I just don't like to engage with people I don't know. Yeah. So I get immediately go into a room and I'm like, where's the corner? I'm going to stand at the corner next to the exit and watch everything happen for a long time. So that's, and I'm very slow to warm. But once I'm warm, once I know you, like if you're my people and we're getting together, everybody knows I'm first one in the door, probably last one out the door, because I'm so glad to see the people that I care about and have this chance to sort of interact with you in real life.
But you too, because you moved around a lot, you know, like you said, that nomadic lifestyle. And even though I grew up on an island, we moved so many times. I never went to the same school for more than 2 years.
Yeah, it took amazing. We went to I had different elementary schools, at a couple of middle schools I went to.
I can't ever remember all the schools I went to, but you develop, though, a skill of making friends just about, you know, anywhere. And it's funny because today it's different. You know, for me, it's more when I go to, when the kids are playing different sports. And I've been in my stepkid's life for about 4 years. I don't know all the parents that the parents have, their kids have grown up together and gone to these things together. I'm coming in as an outsider, and I'm also their stepmom. So it's kind of a double whammy. And I've, in the beginning, that was hard for me. But then I thought, you know what, this is a great challenge. You know, I'm going to get to know people on my own, them as individuals, me as an individual. And it's amazing how, you know, chatty and stuff that most people will be and be willing to be and communicate.
Well, I've learned since we've started doing this kind of work for a living that people love an opportunity to talk about themselves if you give it to them, which isn't an insult. Please don't email me. I think it's important. I think a lot of us walk through our lives, and I think that's part of what this is, this understanding of what we do and don't feel in terms of loneliness, is that we don't have an outlet to sort of explore who we are with people all the time in sort of a deep way that allows you to not only create connection, but to create understanding of who you are for yourself. To put your own life in its own context. You don't get that. So when you meet people, I mean, giving somebody that opening is something that I think people are hungry for, the opportunity to share who they are, their expertise or their life view to an extent.
Authentically, and to connect. And we talked about how you can have so many friends, acquaintances, know so many people. You could be surrounded by people all the time and you could feel very lonely.
Right, because you don't have depth. That has nothing to do with you as an individual not being a solid person or someone. It's not a value judgment. We live sort of in a time and a place where it's very easy to be sort of
keep it superficial,
known by many and seen by many, but known by few, you know, and I think I'm a classic example of it. I go to my kids' school every day and I know so many faces where I'm like, hey, how you doing? Or whatever. I don't actually know you. Yeah. You don't actually know me. And we might know our kids' names, but I don't actually even know your name. You know, like that. It's that kind of a surface level stuff where we don't push for connection because, to be honest, connection sometimes requires emotional rigor and
relationships.
Yeah.
You know, you have in our age, in our 40s, we have children. You know, I have my first grandchild. We have partners, and we have kind of our closer circle of friends.
Yeah, we have different circles of friends, because when you get to our age, you realize that it's okay to have
you have the friends from your kids event.
They don't all have to be the same people. No. But that actually requires investment in sort of maintaining those different situations. Then we have, you know, our professional sets of people. Now we work as professionals, and you know, we have to have our network of people we work with, people that that employ us and things like that create this whole other. There's almost like a cacophony of people around us all of the time.
That takes a lot of work. And I think you hit the nail on the head in that it doesn't. I think the solution, if you're feeling lonely, is not to be around a bunch of people. It's two-pronged in my mind. You know, it's developing a connection with someone, be it a friend, be it a romantic partner, whatever it is, on some level. It could be involving a hobby, whatever it is. But having a deeper connection than, oh, it's cold today, oh, it's hot out, you know, but where you can actually discuss issues. Because think about it, Twyla. We do a podcast where we get together and we talk about the joys and pitfalls of being a grown woman, and we hash out. It's pretty much our own issues. If we didn't do this, I think I would be in therapy.
Probably. Well, you know,
we have an outlet.
But you know, I think it's a funny thing that people don't realize about the two of us when they hear this is that I think a lot of people that don't know us think in real life that we are always in each other's pocket, that we're constantly talking, that we're constantly together. we see each other when we're here.
Yeah.
We actually don't talk when we're not here because we don't want to mess with the sort of reaction time and the real-time reaction and real-life reaction we would get when we talk about these things that are important to us. So we've actually cultivated this sort of depth of relationship in a way that you would think is the exact opposite of how you create a depth of relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And by virtue of doing the show together. And I've had that happen too. I've spoken to people who listen to the show and they don't realize, because I tell them, we don't talk about the questions ahead of time beyond just understanding what the question means. If there's a question, then we just do it. We just do the show and we talk about it.
And I think just by virtue of the things that we've decided we want to talk about, it has created a level of depth that doesn't exist when you're seeing somebody every day at the pickup or the drop off or the grocery store.
Then you're talking about other things, get in the way. And having an outlet like this too I know, and even with the writing that I do, the people who are closest to me, I do have more deep conversations, with my partner, with Tony. I bounce so much off of him. I'll say, I'm thinking about this idea for a column, and we talk about it, but it creates this deep connection because we're talking about issues and things that are very deep and not superficial issues, things that really make you go, huh. It's almost like you ever play that game, Would You Rather?
Yes.
So I've played it multiple times. I really like it. And I think games like that, and I've never played Cards Against Humanity, but I've heard it similar.
Don't do it.
Really? I just bought it. Okay. I want to play it.
Well, okay. You can play it. It's just, it's my son's campaigning to get it right now. And I'm like,
I heard it's inappropriate for kids.
It's totally inappropriate. And he's been playing it with his friends forever.
See, my 13-year-old stepson just talked me into buying it. And he's like, want to play?
Yeah. Wait till you get to the cards where you're like, I didn't want to, that's in there? Oh, well, yeah. At least play with an adult first, so you know what you're getting into.
I should open the box and look at the cards.
Yes, sir.
But
please
games
do.
like that, where you're faced with a question that's a moral, ethical, or some type of dilemma. It's a funny question, but it forces you, with whoever you're with, to kind of dive deep a little bit. Well, why would you rather do this instead of that? It kind of opened that door.
Well.
Because in polite conversation, you don't really talk about those things.
No, absolutely not. And the funny thing is, I currently work on 2 podcasts where I tend to talk about things that can't come up, where we don't talk about these things in polite conversation. So I have sort of a base for talking about things like this, and a comfort level. But you said something earlier, and I just kind of want to go dig in on that a little bit. You talked about the idea of how you can sort of get rid of some of that loneliness by the idea of loneliness by creating a connection with another person. I actually am pushing back on that a little bit because I think one of the ways that I learned to not feel as lonely, because I feel like for me, loneliness was more of in my head, it played out more as a poor me. So I was in my own head feeling sorry for myself. That's where the loneliness came from. And the way that I helped move past it was getting outside of myself and doing things that had nothing to do with me. So when I started to get more involved, like back in college, when I got more involved with organizations that were trying to do things for the greater good, when even as a high schooler, when I would volunteer with organizations that were like everything from like Best Buddies to, we used to go do work at the School for the Deaf and the Blind, which was really just us as teenagers going to play games with the deaf and blind students there, and recognizing from our perspective that they're just regular people and you should treat them like regular people. All of those things sort of help create a base of, I don't actually have to feel like this. I can actually feel a different way. And I felt like I was pushing myself to sort of learn that if I engage with the world a little bit differently, or that I don't actually have to feel that sense of loneliness. Like it wasn't ever about a boy, because I wasn't a boyfriend person in high school. I didn't have boyfriends.
And I didn't mean strictly romantically speaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean just that connection. I could be sidelined at a football game and have a really great conversation with another parent and feel just connected as human beings, because we're talking about more than even just about the game. And sometimes it comes about in the oddest ways. And I'm naturally very curious about other people.
Right. And I think that's helpful. I think that's one of those things that I think that's part of, like, if we start unpacking what makes people sort of what are sort of the fundamental pieces of loneliness. I think a very large part is that is not being interested in the world around you, not being curious about what's going on around you, where you become sort of so in your own head and you get shut off from it. And I think it's easy to get that shut off when you look at the things that we have access to help us. Like it takes away the idea of shared experiences. I mean, between the telephones and between the cell phones and tablets and things like that, where we can be playing like just the game that we want, or just the, seeing just our Instagram feeds, or just the images we choose to follow, so that we're only getting those images. When we're sitting around watching television, when I grew up, we would watch TV and it was a shared experience.
Because you only had one TV in the house.
Our whole family was watching a show. The whole neighborhood was watching that same show.
At the same time.
Yeah, the next day at school. Like I remember when Michael Jackson first did the moonwalk, and that the next day at school, we were all freaking out because we all watched it together. Like we saw it. And now it's so sort of highly individualized that like last night we were having quote unquote family time and we were all in the same space. I was watching something on the television. My daughter was catching up on her show on the tablet. My son was working on an assignment in another room, but was kind of like dipping in and out with another conversation. My other kid was using the remote on the commercial breaks for my show to check out her show. So we were having all of these disconnected experiences and thinking that because we're in the same room, we're having a connected experience. And we're not. And everything is so highly sort of curated and niche now. Like if, even if you and I can both go on YouTube, and our YouTube, the way we experience it or use it is different. The way we use Netflix.
Yeah. The way ads come up are completely different.
Yeah. Like, everything is highly individualized. So it you can almost really isolate yourself and by just the things that you're into and how you would choose to engage with things. And that level of isolation can very easily lead to you feeling lonely. Because
think about it. We don't even really hardly go to movies anymore.
No.
And as a group, watching a movie.
It's funny. I just saw that there was a news article that asked, would you pay $50 if you could just watch a first-run movie from the movie theater in your own house? And you know what I said in a heartbeat? Yep. Yeah. Because it cost me $50 already to go. If I take 5 of my 5 family members to a movie the first weekend it comes out, it's already $50 to go to the night show, and it's close to $40 to go to the afternoon matinee. So would I pay $50 and stay in my PJs and cuddle up with just us and only have our experience of the movie and not like the theater's experience? I would, and I'll argue I would have that experience, but I would also miss out on something. Because there's that sense of community that you get, or that sense of a shared experience. I just recently had that. My girlfriend and I went to go see Girls Trip.
Oh,
which is
I streamed it on Amazon,
right? And which is completely like raunchy and crazy and fun, but the shared experience of sitting in a theater and watching, having like
and laughing with other people,
of having like 70 women in the theater, like all lose their collective minds when the hot sexy guy came out with a shirt off. When we saw the first shocking thing that made us laugh, and we're all like, oh my gosh, like together we were all of us as strangers were having this experience. There's something to be said for the community that comes up from that.
Do you think, and I haven't been, I'm not, because I'm not a lover of huge crowds or waiting in line.
Fair point.
I do not go to sporting events, professional sporting events, and I don't go to concerts.
Yeah, and I love a concert.
But what you're describing, it sounds like that's also, we've replaced certain shared experiences. Movies now, we're watching so much more at home. We can, how many times do you actually go to see a speaker versus just streaming it online or, catching the video later?
Yeah.
But with sporting events, that still exists. With concerts, that still exists.
But see,
it's a different experience.
But and you know what? I think that even that becomes a disconnected experience because I have the experience of I like to go pay for a concert. I'll go sit in the crowd, put my earplugs in if there's a bunch of screaming girls, because obviously I go see boy bands in concert. But there's something like just recently somebody was like, oh, I was bummed because I was missing a show. Yeah. And they were like, just go look at it up on Periscope. And I was like, what? And they're like, people are in the crowd with their phones and they're showing the concert on Periscope. You might not see all of it, or like some of these large venue shows, like they have multiple acts, like in the same night, they'll live stream their own stuff at their website. So I just watched the whole iHeart Radio Festival from my living room, which was great because I got to see all these live performers.
Yeah, and you probably had a better view than if you were actually there.
Yeah, but then I also had this, sad want feeling. Like I wish I was there.
Yeah,
like
that
I wish
shared
I
experience.
I wish I was. I bet it, in my head I kept going. I bet it was fun to be there. I bet it was fun to be there. And you sacrifice some of that sometimes, in making those choices. Even the idea of having sort of a connected experience. That was the whole reason I joined Twitter. Mm-hmm. Twitter for me has always been a connected experience. I watch my shows on TV with Twitter. Yeah. And we all of us into this one show use that hashtag to connect, and I can get funny asides from you. I always say Twitter is the best party because I can hear what everybody says, but I don't have to shush anybody to hear what's going on the screen. But that's still a part of that experience.
Exactly, it connects you, and you still have a shared experience.
Yeah.
So I wonder then if that's kind of when we're hearing lately about this epidemic of loneliness. Is it more an epidemic of not having that connected, shared experience? Like, even in our own households, think too, Twyla, about, I had a mom say this to me the other day. We were talking about they're moving. Mm-hmm. And I was talking about, we've talked about maybe moving. Our house is getting small as the kids get older. Mm-hmm. And she goes, and she has a larger home. She goes, let me tell you this, though. The togetherness time changes when you have a larger home. When you have one room where there's one TV.
Yeah, everybody's in
it. And when that starts to change, even, because now it's very common kids have TVs in their bedrooms.
See, it's not in my house. We no, I mean, honestly, I grew up in a house where, and that may have played very much into my loneliness. My dad was a tinkerer, so he always had somebody's broken something that he fixed.
That's what he was doing. Yeah.
And so every single room in my house had a TV. All our bedrooms had them. The kitchen had one. Yeah. The living room had one. The family room had one. If they could have figured out a way back then to get one in the bathroom, we would have had one in there. So, like my mom had a little one, a portable one you could put out on the porch, or she had her music. My dad had the music sort of wired all over. We had Bose before there was Bose because he had it wired all over the house so you could hear in every room. Wow. And so everybody was kind of separate when they wanted to really be separate. And when I grew up and decided to buy a house, one of the only real rules I put in the house was the TVs are for the main areas only. I don't want a TV in our bedrooms. I don't want TVs in the kids' bedrooms. So we don't have them there. We have two TVs in our house, one in the downstairs family room, one in the upstairs family room. And sometimes we might splinter off. There might be 3 upstairs and 2 downstairs.
Sure.
But for the most part, that is how you access TV. Now the dynamic has changed now with tablets. Because the tablets,
you stream everything.
Tablets and Netflix changed the way that we do it. But even
you don't need a TV. You can do it. I have my kids will watch things on their phones even.
Yeah, see, and I
what's
don't know
funny too is they watch it with headphones.
No, I just can't do it because I can't see.
Oh no, I couldn't either. It's way too small. It's not an enjoyable experience.
I don't want to use my cheater readers to be able to watch TV with you. That's okay. But I mean,
it changes the dynamic, and we've in our house we've gotten into our own kind of. Our individual hobbies have been developed more.
Yeah,
since I've stopped drinking, it's like I feel like I suddenly have more time on my hands, where it's more of a creative time instead of sleepy time.
So in other words, I need to raid my craft stuff and just give you things now.
Totally, okay. Yarn especially because I'm all about the loom knitting right now.
Okay, good to know.
But what I'm finding I'm really enjoying is because what we used to do is get together if we all watched a movie as a family, and then I would just drink wine.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
And I'm finding I don't want to watch a lot of the shows that the kids want to watch, or I just don't even want to watch a show. And we've had this kind of throwback thing happening in our household where we'll make a fire. I'm doing my loom knitting. One of the kids is painting. Tony's working on a model car. The other kid is, as soon as it gets dark, he runs outside with the camera because he's been working on long exposure photography.
Oh, wow.
That works really well at night. Then he comes back in and we go through the photos. So it's like we're all playing with our own blocks, but we're doing it next to each other.
Yeah, it's a play date.
Totally. And it's in one room or they're kind of going in and out, and we're finding I'm really liking that.
Well, and we're starting to sort of see that come back into vogue. The sort of the idea that everything old is new again. I mean, my son went to a meeting of the board game club at school where they're just back to playing old school board games that are the complicated ones. And all my kids had, the Pokemon phase. They're in their Magic phase now where they play that card game and things like that. And
those are so much better. They're so great. There's board games that we, will play as well as the kids, and we all really do enjoy it.
Well, talk to me a little bit about, because in my head when I read these stories and stuff on the internet about loneliness, I feel like they're not talking about a sense of community. I feel like they're very much talking about the idea of people being alone as in they don't have a romantic attachment. Like I feel I truly feel like a lot of what people in our age range count as loneliness is specifically tied to, do they have a person in their life that they consider loving or that loves them in return? If they don't have that, the rest of their life could be sparkling and they'll still feel like they're lonely because they don't have that person's hand to hold.
Well, that's interesting. And I think that's a different kind of issue in that, for me, it would have to be, I think we need to first and foremost be very comfortable with ourselves.
But I think
being
most
alone.
But I think most people are not.
No, they're not. But I do believe it's also in our nature. We're pack animals. It's in our nature to have a partner or to have a pack. We have families, we have friends, it's not often, if you're single even and not in a relationship, I could see
that's why we have things like Galentine's Day and Friendsgiving.
Exactly.
It's true. I'm not making fun of those either because I did those for years. But
no, you can still connect.
But that's what it is. I always say, like, friends are the family you choose. I think very much people do that. But I still feel like there's that weird sense of that. I think that discomfort of being okay as an individual that you're talking about, like being by yourself, winds up playing out and manifesting as, I would like a partner because I'm not okay being alone. So it's nice to have a partner.
Yeah. And I think, of course, ideally it should be, I'm okay being alone. I'm happy. I'm content. I want to amplify that with a partner.
Yes,
I want to share it with a
that.
partner. When I feel you're not going to have a successful partnership till you can find that happiness and contentment on your own.
But that's why 50% of all marriages end in divorce.
Yeah, exactly. Because you think that, I'm not happy in this relationship. And there are reasons and valid reasons for relationships ending.
Yeah.
But really, why did you get into it in the first place? And I've asked myself that. I'm the one sitting here with 2 divorces under my belt.
Yeah.
There was a point in time where I knew this was not the best choice, but I did it anyways. And that's because I wasn't comfortable being on my own.
Right. But do you think, I think we're probably going to get emails from people thinking like we're being high-minded and saying you have to be comfortable being alone. Because I think a lot of people struggle with even understanding what that means, let alone how to apply it in their lives.
And we're not even talking, there's a difference between being physically alone and I mentioned earlier, I've been in a relationship where I felt incredibly lonely.
Right.
Because the person that I should be connecting with, I was not connecting with.
And I think a lot of people go through that and don't recognize what that is versus, the idea of feeling like I think they wouldn't even characterize it as loneliness because they think they can't use that word.
Yeah, because you're not physically by yourself.
Yeah.
But here's the thing I came to realize way later, and actually I realized this in my current relationship now, that had everything to do with me. It actually had nothing to do with him. I was looking for him to validate my existence. I was looking for him to let me know I was doing a good job. And there's nothing wrong with wanting validation. And we're human beings.
Wanting support, right. But there's a difference between looking for your partner to acknowledge you, to acknowledge your contribution versus you're looking for your partner to acknowledge your existence.
Exactly. It was almost kind of like if you don't tell me you see me, then do I really exist?
Right.
And that is where the mistake is. And that was something that took me a long time in my life to come to that point. And I'm thankful that I came to that point, not even being alone. I was in a relationship. I was in the relationship that I'm in now. And I found myself kind of growing and realizing it's me. All my happiness, all my content, oh my God, I'm totally forgetting this word now. Content. All my contentment is coming from me.
Right.
It's
and you get to decide it.
Me. I decide. It's not validated by anyone. It's not reinforced by anyone. And I gain this quiet confidence about knowing that I am okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am fine.
Absolutely.
And now I'm able to have this experience and have this relationship. We both are, because he's very much that way as well, where you enhance each other. It's very complementary, but you can completely exist independently of each other.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most important things my mother ever taught me about getting into a long-term relationship was she always said, I want you to love the person that you're with unconditionally. I want you to love them but I don't want you to need them for anything.
Yeah.
And so she was like, so you have to be your own person. You have to stand on your own 2 feet. You have to be able to provide for yourself, all of those things. Because if you can do all of those things, then having somebody love you is sort of gravy. Like that's, you already got everything else. You already, and this is supposed to enhance it. It's not supposed to be a requirement for you to survive or to feel like your life has worth or anything like that.
No, and don't you think it starts with that unconditional love for yourself? When you reach that, and you know that, you know what, I am the bomb.com.
Well,
I'm,
well, we all already know that I have an unhealthy sense of loving myself. We all know I think I'm pretty darn great. So,
but that's where it starts.
Yeah.
When we don't need another partner to validate that for us, because we know we have confidence in ourselves. It's nice to hear. It's great, and you want to, and that's part of having a relationship is to build each other up and to nurture each other.
Right.
But until you can nurture yourself, and it doesn't mean you need to even go out and, if you're sitting, you're listening to this right now and you're feeling lonely and you have, 2 kids and a husband and or whatever, it's not that you need to go out into the woods and isolate yourselves. That's not what we're talking about.
No.
It starts with just taking charge of your own views even. If you're so focused on you're unfulfilled because so-and-so doesn't do this or that, you are totally on the wrong track.
Yep. I'm gonna give you a piece of advice. I'm gonna tell you, go back old school like Oprah. Remember in the 90s when Oprah conned us all into buying gratitude journals?
Yeah.
and by con, I mean lovingly. I'm saying that lovingly because everybody knows I worship at the foot of Oprah.
Yes.
And I will do anything she tells me to do. So we all had our gratitude journals, and we were all told to sit down every day and write like 3 to 5 things a day that we're grateful for and be present in that moment of being like, I appreciate this and I appreciate this. And she was like, it doesn't matter if it's big or small. If you're just happy that you picked the perfect pair of warm fuzzy socks today, be grateful for those warm fuzzy socks because they mean something to you today.
Yeah.
And you kind of do that little by little, and you build the muscle of feeling a little bit better about your life and a little bit better about yourself until the things that you're focused on are not the negative things. You're focused on the positive things.
Yeah.
And that you can that kind of helps build up who you are as a person.
It does. And you're right, Twilyn, that it's a muscle that you have to exercise. And by doing that, and you're right, when we did the gratitude journals, it's when you focus on it, that's what you're going to get more of. If all you're focused on is I'm so lonely, I'm unfulfilled, and you're pointing the finger somewhere else, then you're just going to get more of it. One, because you can't change anything you're not owning.
Yeah, that's true.
You're just pointing it in the other direction. But again, focus. And like you said, that's a great idea. Start with the small things. I didn't spill any food on my boobs today.
Hey, girl, listen. Y'all know how much of an accomplishment that is. When you get into the territory where your bra size ends with any kind of triple variation of digit, that is a huge deal when you can make through the whole day and have like a completely clean shirt. You're like, I am like fancy today. Like you just get excited. Yeah. It is the little things sometimes.
Yeah, and it's what I have found in my, when I kind of came to this realization myself, is that was the direction I was going. I was so incredibly grateful for the, situations, people, thing in my life, for what I was doing, that it was that becomes the focus. And that's where you start to find the joy and the things that you enjoy doing and the happiness. And it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. I've had situations where I can look back even a few years ago, and I have those same issues or problems today, but I'm much more content and happy today. Not because any of those things changed, because I changed.
Oh, you just that. Okay, listen, that's good. Like if I was doing quotes, if I quoted our show, I would quote. I mean, our social media person might, but I that's really good that none of the other things changed. I changed.
Yeah, no. Same issues, financial things, whatever else,
well, you know what? And I can't remember who said it. I'll find it and I'll put it in. Well, we almost never do a syllabus for this show, but I'll find one for our syllabus today. Somebody said it and it was really great. It's like, you can't control anybody's actions. You can only control your reaction. Mm-hmm. So if anybody else is doing things and you don't feel comfortable with it, or you don't like how you feel like you're being quote unquote treated or whatever. Yeah. All you can do is control how you process that information and move forward with it. How you react is the only thing that can happen. And I found that I put that sort of into power and into action when I hit like the magic 40 and I just said, I want more peace. I don't want to be fighting with folks all the time. Yeah. And that's, like I said, that became a real thing where in the old days, in like a fight I would have and where we'd go toe to toe, now I just go, okay. Like thank you for sharing your opinion.
Yeah.
I think differently. We can agree to disagree. I'm gonna go over here and read my comic books. Whatever it is, that's kind of a thing. And even the loneliness, like I'm funny enough that the more we do this show and the more we do things surrounding the company, I am finding it how many turns I sort of outthought myself. Like the idea that I didn't consciously sit down and go, I'm going to do this better now. I just moved into enough of a headspace to do it better. And then as I looked back on myself as a young person, by sheer force of will, sometimes I just put myself in the right place to be open and receptive to the next good thing that was supposed to happen to me.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not, trust me, I was never this savvy as a kid. If I was this savvy, I'd be Bill Gates.
I know. Isn't it funny? That's kind of the funny thing and maybe it's just because it takes us going through the life experience and different things to get to your point. It makes me look forward to, I'm 47 now, and how content and happy I am now.
Oh, listen,
and there's still a lot on my plate. There's things I'm dealing with and handling, but to be able to do that and be in that headspace, like, what's it going to be like even when we have 20 more years of experience?
Oh, listen, as a 65-year-old, I can guarantee you people are going to think I'm high all day. 'Cause I'm going to be so high off life at that point that everybody's going to be like, she's so mellow. What are you smoking? That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even, because I find myself now in the everyday just going, I'm, even with all the everyday stuff, I'm still like, this is like the best trip I could be on right now. Like, this is, it's not getting any, like, even, what's funny that I found from the time that we sat down to start doing this show and started posing questions to now, I think we've had to go back and kind of reframe questions and recontextualize questions. Cause there were things that a year ago that we were both like, this is on my soul, this is on my spirit, that aren't there now because we've done this. Is like when you say this place is like therapy for us, a lot of times you're right. We have worked through things and we have pushed ourselves as individuals to go back out into the world and engage differently, so that when we come back and go, hey, is this question valid to us anymore? No, it isn't anymore.
Yeah.
And and we wanted it to be, and it isn't. I mean, I guess the real problem we might have is that we might work ourselves out of a job because all of a sudden we cured ourselves.
Well, that's a great thing, though. I don't think we're ever going to, and I think that's what life is about. It's about you just before you're about to master something, the next kind of game comes into play.
Yeah.
Just when you're like, I was just like, wow, I kind of got this. I'm parenting adult children. I got the step kids. I'm like, okay, I think I'm getting this. Boom, here's a grandbaby.
Yeah, hey, grandma.
Like, now I got the grandbaby and everything that goes along with that, and I love it. But it changes. Now it's changed how I'm parenting my daughter.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I found myself slipping into some bad habits with her and being a bit too hard on her, and going, okay, wait, I need to back it up. She is the mother.
Yep, you got to let her do her job.
She is the mother. I've done a good job with her. She's got a smart head on her shoulders. That way she still comes to me because she'll say, hey, what do you think about this? And then that's my opportunity.
Yep.
But if I just hammer on her for every little thing, and it's hilarious. The difference is because, I find these words now constantly coming out of my mouth. Back in my day, we didn't measure how much the babies ate. We just fed them when they were hungry. Now it's like he needs 3 ounces every 3 hours. I'm like, what? It's crazy, Twyla.
Yeah, and here's what you're supposed to just do. You're supposed to say, oh, my grandson is so beautiful. That's all you're supposed to do.
Like, wow.
My mom, you know what? My mom is super exacting about a lot of things, and she always has been. She's just always been very, very specific about what she wants, the way she wants it. And when I had a kid, I really and truly was waiting for the moment where I was going to have to go, okay, lady, I need you to back up.
Yeah.
And it never happened. And I remember getting curious enough to be like, is something wrong?
Yeah.
Like, do you just not care if I feed my babies to the wolves? And she told me, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Yeah. She was like, you're not dumb. You'll figure it out. And if you have a question, you'll come ask me, but I'm not going to tell you how to raise your kid. I already raised my kids. I'm done doing that. And when she said that, it just kind of lifted this giant weight off of my shoulders to be able to be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Cause there's that concern about judgment too. I think with our parents, and I know for me with my daughter, I was being too judgy the way that it was coming across, and I realized, okay, I need to back it up. She knows what she's doing.
Well, do you think that ties into like this sort of overall thing too, like this idea of because for me, the only real pockets of loneliness I genuinely feel now come from when I go back into sort of my mental Rolodex of this is what family was like meant to me. This, like, especially around occasions, I actually get a little bit of the blues, like the holiday blues, because I remember growing up with like a bunch of people around. You know, like Thanksgiving was, you know, for years Thanksgiving was like 40 people.
Yeah,
and Christmas was, you know, we did our family thing one day, and then we hopped in the car and we went to be with all our family the next day, and we had like, it was just and it wasn't even about an abundance of gifts. It was just we were around everybody. And my holiday experience here with my kids and my family, because we're all so spread out now, is my whole family's in the house, and it's the 5 of us and the dog. We, you know, on Christmas we'll Skype our relatives that we miss, but it's not the same as being able to like have your siblings show up for dinner, or being able to do Secret Santa with your 20, you know, immediate family members and cousins, and the kind of stuff I grew up having. That I feel like sometimes I feel like just slightly guilty that I haven't done more to make my kids have that experience.
Yeah.
So that it feels more connected to something. Because to me, holidays and occasions weren't meant to be individual. They're meant to be community based. And we don't always have that anymore.
Yeah, I guess, you know, I have my kids here. I have a sister who lives here and her husband. And now her daughter has moved away for a few years. But you know, you're right. I guess if I didn't have that during the holidays, I would, you know, maybe miss that. But we also I'm not big on the days of, you know, I get together with my kids for Mother's Day the week after.
Right.
So I've said, I love you, but Mother's Day is about me.
It's the
smartest thing ever.
Listen, sometimes Natalie comes up with these things, and at first blush, you're like, girl. Yeah. But then you think about it, and you're like, wait, I could avoid like Mother's Day buffets and watch other people's children get upset with them, and then I wouldn't have to share the day with my mother-in-law. Which I'll be honest, now that I'm older, I'm okay with that. I get it as a mom.
But when you're younger, it's different.
When you first have your babies and you just want it to be about you, and then she shows up and then she takes all your shine, and it's like, what? Are you serious? Right now?
And now I didn't come to this till after my mom passed, so it might be different if my mom was still alive, because I have that obligation with her. But I have a feeling I would be doing this anyways.
Yeah.
And I just thought, you know what? And Mother's Day became hard for me after my mom died. It's
I can imagine
it's better
that.
now. It's been almost 5 years.
Yeah, but I can imagine.
But and then I had the brilliant, dumb idea of going home to Hawaii and scattering my mom's ashes on Mother's Day. Okay. How stupid is that? Why no one talked me out of that? I don't know. It ruined Mother's Day for me for a good amount of years. And this is actually how it came about. Is I told my kids, I said, Mother's Day is a hard day for me. And really what I want is I want to be alone. I want to be alone. I want to fish. I want to do whatever it is I feel like doing in that moment. I don't want to have to be committed to anything. Let's get together the Sunday after Mother's Day and let's celebrate it then. And I told them, the other thing I said, you are going to become mothers one day. This was with my daughters.
Right.
I don't want you feeling like you have to spend Mother's Day with me. You celebrate you being a mom with your kids.
That's smart.
We will celebrate after.
But that's a choice for you, being that idea that choosing to be alone, which I think which I actually don't think we do enough digging into as a concept in terms of this discussion of loneliness, of when are you choosing to be alone and under what circumstances?
Yeah.
And do we, as a collective, do we make it okay to make that choice to be alone? Because I can tell you right now, we're going to get some emails of people being like, you spend Mother's Day all by yourself. Like, it's going to be super judgy.
I spend it with Tony.
Yeah, but we're still going to get we're going to get the judgy thing.
Yeah, but why not? Is Mother's Day not about celebrating being a mom and how I want to
No, it isn't.
Celebrate
It's just an opportunity for the card industry to get some more cards.
And I have it lined up to have that time with my kids.
Right.
We do Thanksgiving the day after Thanksgiving.
So that's Friendsgiving for us.
Yeah. Well, we do it that way because my kids are adults. My kids have significant others. And as my children got older and as our families expanded and blended families, I thought, you know what? I'm done fighting for a holiday.
You're not fooling nobody. You're just setting yourself up to be the cool parent in all of this. Like, you know, the laid back parent is the one who gets the most access. The cool grandma, like you're trying to be beta grandma. See, there's Alpha Grand and Beta Grand. Alpha Grand wants to be everywhere. She wants to be in the delivery room. She wants you to name her after her or your grandmother. She wants to like show up with best practices. Beta Grandma rolls in there like cool as hell. Like, you know, like, girl, I got you a nail appointment. Why don't you go take a shower? I'll hold the baby for a couple hours. beta
grandma.
That's
funny because that is totally the way it is. I told my daughter, why don't you come back in a couple weeks? I get you an appointment at my salon.
Just saying. Listen,
you can get a manicure.
It's a good play.
But it works, though, in terms of, like, day after Thanksgiving. They can be with the other part of their family on Thanksgiving. The only thing I've told all my kids is I want Christmas Eve. It's the only tradition I ever had with my family.
Right. But there's that, even that, like, sense of, like, building out when you're building out those traditions and you're sort of adhering to some of those traditions. I think when you're, I think even sort of tying this all the way back to the original question that we asked, there are opportunities at every turn to take yourself out of that lonely headspace and put yourself into a position where you can and feel better. And mind you, this is a completely separate conversation from if you're struggling from some sort of mental illness or you're suffering some sort of medical condition like depression or things like that. Those are different.
Yeah, we're not talking about that.
Yeah, those are not force of will things. Yeah. Those are actual, you know, those are biochemical reactions. You should be, hopefully, if you're very fortunate, you're using mental health capabilities, and you're using, you know, your insurance and your network and professionals to help you, you know, navigate those things. I'm just talking about your everyday run-of-the-mill person who just says, you know, I'm lonely. I wish I had more of this in my life. And some of that is even identifying. I wish I had more of X, Y, and Z in my life. If you can identify it, like what do they always say at church? You name it and claim it, right? So, you know, if you know I'm lonely, find out what is making you lonely. Do you feel lonely because you always go to the movies by yourself? Then find a buddy to go to the movies with. Do you feel lonely because you don't have anybody that wants to chat, that wants to gossip about your soaps, and that's your favorite thing in the world? Then go volunteer and put a little bit of time over at like the local care center or something where you know those like honestly, I had a very lonely period when I first had kids at home, and it was just me and them. And you know, we lived here. We don't have extended family here, so my connector to the world was like watching all the daytime stuff. And then I would call my mom while she was watching the daytime stuff too. And we still do this to this day. Like, my kids are at school now. And sometimes she'll call me and be like, did you watch Wendy today? And I'll be like, yeah, I saw that thing, you know, or she'll call me, like, if one of us is out of the loop on a soap opera for a long time, she'll call me and be like, okay, I just got back into the soap opera and I don't know what's going on. And sometimes I have to tell her, oh, Mom, I don't know what's going on either. I don't watch that one anymore. Or if it, you know, whatever the thing is that we watch, you know, or that's our like touchstone, then we use that as our opening. And then sometimes we'll be on the phone for 15 minutes. Sometimes we're on the phone for 2 hours, but we're still finding a way to sort of assuage that lonely feeling that you get by reaching outside of yourself.
Yeah. It's amazing who shares those interests too. And kind of the way that you watch shows on Twitter, and then through Twitter, you communicate and you have that community.
Yep.
You know, it's a similar thing you can find. That's the beauty of technology, is there are even meetup groups where you can meet up in real life and talk about and experience these things that you enjoy together.
Okay, well, and I think that's a good sort of closer before we end our discussion, is the idea of social media, because for as many people that lament and complain, and we have done that here in the space about what social media can take away from you, I single-handedly still think it's an incredibly powerful tool to stay connected to people that are important to you. It's just a matter of how you use the tool. Yeah. So I'm not friends with everybody on Facebook, but I'm friends with like my immediate family and friends and people that know me in real life. My rule for Facebook is, if you know me in real life, then we can be friends on Facebook. And that's great because we have an opportunity. Like I have like 40 first and second and third cousins. on just one side of my family.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and on my other side, I mean, we've got cousins upon cousins and relatives upon relatives. And the beauty of being able to know birthdays, so I don't miss birthdays because Facebook will tell me or remind me. Or when my first cousins went to see their kids that are in the military over in Korea, and they shared the trip with us on social media and showed us this was us in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And we made a stop in Germany, and now we're here in Korea with them. And you know, that was, to me, that's wonderful. Like I have a nephew, and he did the whole like promposal thing for homecoming,
and you got to see it.
I got to see him ask a girl. I got to see him all dressed up. You know, it was that, to me, those are the moments you miss when you're disconnected and you live in these far-flung places. Yeah. But there's this really powerful tool that can allow us to share glimpses of our lives and stay connected. And if it's something that's really important to me or touches me, I can, you know, leave my little comment like, oh my gosh, you're getting so big, you know. Yeah. Or if it's more in depth and I want to share something with you, then I jump in on a personal message and send you a direct message. It's like, you know, hey, you're in this area. this was like the coolest place we were at. I don't know if you guys are going to get a chance to stop there, but totally, if you get a chance, here's the information, you know, where we're still staying connected.
You can have a glimpse into their life.
And a glimpse is better than access, right?
Exactly.
It's better than sitting here going, I wish I knew more about the people around me, or I wish I had more of that. You can have more of that. It's just sometimes that depth of relationship you want will not come to you because somebody else gives it to you.
You have to create it. If you want
you have to get up and go make it. Sometimes you really do.
Exactly.
So I guess we should ask the question: is everybody lonely?
I don't think so. I don't think everybody's lonely. I'm still a bit perplexed. All this talk on, you know, we've seen lately on the media about an epidemic of loneliness. I'm not running into people where I'm hearing that. I think it's more of, like I was saying, I think there's a lack of connection, of deep personal connection. And I don't think you need 100 people to do that.
I think everybody has the life that they want and the experience that they want to have.
That's right. You want drama, you got drama.
And if you're not enjoying it, I think you absolutely have the power in your hand and in your possession to change it at any moment in time. So go change it.
That's right.
Well, we want to hear from you. Go to the Facebook page, go to Matriarch Digital Media, like the page if you haven't already, and hit the send message feature. Type a message, say you want to talk to Twyla and Natalie about something, and let us know. Let it fly. Let us know exactly what you're thinking. We will see all of your messages, and we will respond in kind. We truly appreciate the opportunity to do this, and we love that we get to do this with you and for you. So thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.